Hi there, Dominic the CX guy. Nice to see you again. Welcome to the channel. If you're new, today we're going to be continuing the discussion about setting your Zendesk from scratch. And yeah, specifically today we're going to be focusing on starting a new phase, which is the design phase. So before we begin, quick intro. My name is Dominic. I'm a Zendesk consultant. I've been one for the past 8 years. I've been a Zendesk partner for the past 2 years. I have been subcontracted by Zendesk to work on projects exactly like this one. So I have a methodology that I have, that I'd like to share with you. And what else? Yes, today we're going to continue the discussion again about setting up your Zendesk. We've been through a few videos last week about this, how to go about setting up your Zendesk. And the way that this works is I first tell you what we're going to be discussing, then I share my screen and I show you stuff that you can set up and how it works, best practices and so on. Consider subscribing to this channel, please. This is, me trying to create educational content, and the only way to share it with more people is for the algorithm to pick it up and notice that there is interest for it. So consider subscribing or comment if you want to see some special content. That would be great, and it will really help me. Actually, you know what? Other YouTubers just say subscribe beneath. So yeah, please do that. There is a playlist which is called Zendesk Setup, and it's around here somewhere. And you can find all the videos that are part of this, of setting up your Zendesk from scratch. Again, I'm sharing some best practices that I've learned throughout my 8 years of experience and while working at Zendesk. And so let me quickly share my screen and show you where we are today. Okay, so let me hide this. All right, so this is the process, right, that we've gone through last week. So we've done the learn or discovery phase, the learn phase or the discovery phase, where we learn things about you, your processes, your business, your who you are, why you do things, and how you do them. We'll get to it in a bit. So we did the kickoff where I presented the process, this process. Then we had some videos about preparation or your homework that you need to do, business requirements, business flows, how to get your training, business flows. So after you do the business flows comes the discovery business flows to the best of your ability. There's no pressure in doing it perfect. And then we do the discovery sessions. Discovery sessions is where essentially I collect I look through your business flows, use cases, and then I help you translate those into Zendesk features. So this requires usually maybe like 2 or 3 meetings where we discuss everything related to business flows, edge cases, compliance, negative reviews, everything. So everything that would come up into your system, we need to discuss that and break it apart and see exactly what business rules or what data collection or everything that is related to these, and set them very nicely into a spreadsheet, which afterwards I take these away and I translate those into features and into some process flows, which I will be guiding you through today. So today, as I said, it marks so let's assume that I have done my homework and I will present it in this phase. So now it's the design sessions, and today we're going to do the general walkthrough. In this general walkthrough, we go through all of the use cases that we've collected, all the edge cases, everything that is related to your support system and what will run through your support system. And we go through the process flows that I have created in the meantime, which I will show you what that looks like. I will present a global use case, which encompasses a lot of something more general. So a global use case, not necessarily the more in-depth ones, because that comes, of course, based on the discussions that I have with you. So general walkthrough, how this works. In this case, it's going to be a Google Slides presentation, a presentation where we go through all of the I won't insist a lot on this because this always is tailored to your company's needs, right? So to the project that we're working on. So I'm just going to walk you really fast through this, and then I'm going to walk you through this process flow that I create in Miro. It's if you don't know Miro, it's a software which allows you to create mind maps and processes and process flows, which are very coherent, and yeah, they help you understand exactly what we're working on and what it looks like, or it gives you an idea. And yeah, so very quickly, so this is the first session of the design phase again. So yeah, so we're going to go through this presentation again real quick, and then um, we go through the process flows. I wanted to, okay, so I'm back. I mistakenly shut down the recording. So coming back to this, I need to present to you the, here we go, the walkthrough for customer support. So use cases, right, where we mentioned that we centralize everything, like the data collection, the process flows, and so on. So yeah, this is something which I have done in the past for another project, but this is very reflective of how one would look like when we work together. So then the second one is who's who. So yeah, I'm your guy. In this case, I would obviously, if I would have someone from my technical, or I have my colleague, or also you as well, like who is participating in the call, because I share this with you. Then I have some remote session ground rules. This is just, yeah, a way for us to keep ourselves, how should I call it? Accountable, right? So showing up on time, turning a video on during the session so we can see your face. It's nice to have a visual, connection. Muting laptop with when someone is speaking, right? So if there's more of us, usually this is a meeting when there's more people involved because the team also wants to participate. Staying mentally and physically present. You'll have plenty of time to check your phone and your messages afterwards. Oh, sorry. Turning off, silencing your mobile phone, listening to one another with an open mind, right? We're not here to uh, to be right about things. We're here to, yeah, discuss and have a conversation. Staying on point and on time, keep comments brief and on point, not necessarily digress about stuff which is not necessarily very relevant. Taking part in the discussion happening, so we need everyone to participate, right? So everyone has to bring contribution. All right, this is the timeline. So we are here. Usually the walkthrough has 2 sessions, depends on the size of your company. I won't insist. And then there's people design, ticketing design, workflows by channels. In this case, this was email and talk. We're going to talk about more business rules, and then, yeah, customizing chat. All right, so the agenda, usually these calls take 2 hours. Today is definitely not going to be that long because I am just one-sided and presenting one business case. There is nobody to ask me questions. I would like you to ask me questions. So, but yeah, do it in the questions, do it in the comments. So objectives is to gain a better understanding of your workflows, which will enable us to translate them to Zendesk. So review your business processes, and then if we've missed anything, and yeah, and then moving on. So the session approach, usually how this works is we have a deck, which is this slide deck that we're looking at. Then we go into the system, we show you how to do it, and then we have a configuration, which is the homework, basically, where you have to collect what is to be done next, and you have to do that yourself. Let's get ready to rumble and let's go in. Okay, so, oh my God, this is running so fast. My mouse is running like crazy. Key business processes. So in this case, we have, yeah, and in this case, these were the use cases where we write them down. We go through them one by one, and how we go through them one by one, it's like this. So this is where, for example, the different flows have been collected and have been created by me in Miro or Illustrator or, yeah, whatever software you have available. This is what I use. I use Miro and Illustrator. This is one of them. This is the inquiry, new user account, etc. So I also have some notes here for example, for France and Italy, inquiry price question. So not to worry, I will walk you through one of these cases in a bit. Okay, and then ticket flows. I have some flows for the tickets here, like the identified workflows and some notes for each one, edge cases and compliance, and yeah, a lot of whatever implies a ticket to be solved and to get a positive experience from our customers. Okay, some more use cases, and then yeah, reporting setup, support, reporting guide, a walkthrough for these. Again, I won't go through because this is tailored to the previous customer, the Q&A session, what's next, and then thanks. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through one of these use cases. Oops, sorry. One of these use cases, and I'm going to open one in my, here we go. I have it open. Just going to pull it here. All right, so this is what it looks like. And I'm going to walk you through what this is because it's very, very important because this is how I work and this is how I advise you to work. You don't have to do it exactly like how I do it, but it would be these are very useful to have because as I've mentioned in some previous videos as well, previous lessons, it's very important that everyone is able to see these, contribute, and then if somebody new comes into the team, they will just have to look at these and understand what is going on. Obviously, not if you start from scratch and you get hired, obviously you're not going to understand like first time you see it, but just a small walkthrough, and then that's it. You will know what this is about, and you don't have to necessarily do this conversation over and over with whoever you hire. And it's much easier because you have everything documented and you keep it stored somewhere. All right, so and your management will love you for it. All right, so zooming in here and let me explain what this is about. All right, so in blue, we have our end user or our customer. So everything related to our customers, the actions that are going to happen from our customer's perspective. Then what the Zendesk system does. This is Zendesk in this blue. No, this is not blue. This is, sorry, this is a sort of a azure. I don't know. It's a different color. I'm not very good with colors. Then the agents in your Zendesk. So who are the people who are going to be supporting your customers? You're the agents. So this is their color and every action that they do regarding a process and what needs to happen to solve it, right? And then there's the backend. I'm just, in this case, it's just the backend, which is many of you are familiar, right? So you have your Zendesk supports tool, and then you have your sales database somewhere in your backend, essentially, where you keep your client data or you keep your order data, etc. Whatever data you keep in. I also do backend integration, so I have a team of developers that I work with. I have 3 developers, and depending on project requirements, I assign work to either one or many of them. Usually a backend integration takes about, I don't know, like 2 weeks of work, 2-3 weeks, depending on the size of the project. All right, so I also have here some actions, which is, for example, this one, side conversation, an automation, a trigger, a macro, and a view. I will guide you through what this means. So a side conversation is a way for you to talk to your third parties. Like if you have any partners that you don't want to give access to your Zendesk to these partners, to these third parties, then you just communicate with them with side conversation, which is a feature inside Zendesk. Automations, it's a business rule inside Zendesk, which is time-based. A trigger is another business rule, is based on events. So if an event is happening, then the trigger fires. The automation works in a similar way, but if an event happens and it's been a few hours since that event happened, then perform an action. A macro is a template essentially in Zendesk that you can use. Your agents can use as templates to modify ticket properties and also reply to the customer. And a view is a folder, if you will, where agents can see the tickets that they are working on. All right, so we've done this small introduction, and now hopefully this is going to start making sense. So this particular use case, which let me go back to my, here we go, configuration workbook. It refers to this use case, right? So this use case that I've written down here, that we've gone through and how to collect it and how to think about it. You're not going to do it perfect, but I have a previous video on it. Go back and see it. And this is what we've created this, this process flow for. So the one that we are going to be looking at now is going to be reflecting a use case for a user account and for the email channel, right? So now getting back in here. So the customer sends an email to support@yourcompany.com, right? So customer wants to reach out to support and ask for a new user account or whatever it is that they want, right? So whatever support request that they need, this is the email channel. We have to create these types of flows or process flows for each type of use case. So in this case, it's just a user trying to create an account via email. So customer sends an email to support@yourcompany.com, right? So what happens next? Then this goes into to-do inside Zendesk. And what happens is a trigger. This is a trigger, right? So this is something that we set up. Request receive is sent to customer. So this means that a trigger fires and says, thank you, dear customer, for reaching out to us. Somebody is looking into your request and here's your ticket ID, and sends this email, boom. And then the end user or the customer receives an email in their inbox acknowledging that we have received their request, right? Okay, hope this makes sense. Then what happens? Another thing. So we have another trigger set up whenever this comes into the system, which what does this trigger do? This trigger looks for the conditions, right? So a trigger is a business rule that is based on events, right? So an event is the ticket status is new, so it just came into the system, nobody is assigned to it. What actions do we want to perform to it? We want to assign group based on the language used, right? So if the user wrote to us in French or they wrote to us in German, because actually that's where I do most of my work. I do it in the DACH area. So if we pick up the language and it's German, and we set the priority to normal. Nice, right? Okay, so this means that if we set the priority to normal, we'll be able to send this through an SLA flow, right? So a service level agreement. We won't get into that right now because it's a much more complex issue that comes in a future lesson. So we're not going to focus on that. Right, so what happens next? Next, from this trigger, what does the system, Zendesk, what this does is it forwards this ticket, doesn't forward it, it just filters it out into a view. A view is a folder, if you will, where a queue, because people also call them queues. In Zendesk, we call them views. And it pushes this through a queue or a view where agents are able to pick it up, right? So it pushes this, the ticket is available in the view, right? So what happens next? In the view, an agent goes and clicks the view and they will be able to see the ticket, right? So we go down into the agent area. So agent takes the ticket from the view and ticket is now open, right? Okay, so, so in this case, our ticket is now open and it has been assigned to an agent. Very good. So now we have a starting point for our agents to work on our tickets. So considering in this case, we're considering that we've done the backend integration and the agent does not need to necessarily log into the backend system and see who this user is or perform an action directly in the backend, right? So this is how normally companies would do things. They would ask the customer, sorry, not the customer, they would ask the agent to be in two platforms. One is in Zendesk to offer support, and then in the backend to perform an action, right? Add a user, delete a user, modify the properties, whatever it is, right? So in this case, we imagine that the backend integration is already done. Usually these backend integrations, as I said, it's very good to have them because you keep the agent within one interface and they can perform the actions directly in Zendesk, and it's a much better agent experience. So if the agent experience is enhanced, then it takes, and you can realize if they can perform that action to just add this user, right, which requests a new account, to add them in the backend directly from Zendesk, saves the agent a lot of time. And if they do that, they can also get back to their customer faster and say, hey, yeah, we've done it. But that's what we're going to do now. So moving on, agent takes the ticket and is now open. Backend integration with Zendesk shows account information for the customer. Agent can perform some actions. Next, still in the agent sphere. Agent does internal investigation on ticket and assigns tickets category. Ticket category can be, for example, a new user account, right? So you have a drop-down, we create a drop-down, which is a data custom field in Zendesk, and we can categorize our request. So what was this? This was a new user account request. Okay, now agent needs some more information from the customer. They can't just create their account inside the backend. They need some more information like, hey, you need to provide us with maybe your ID so we can do that, or you need to provide us with your address. You need to provide us with, I don't know, whatever information is needed for the agent to perform this action. So agent goes back and forth with the customer, and they can do this through a macro. A macro is a template, as I've said before. And if in this case, like when the user requests for a new user account, the agent can just have a template and say, in order for me to start to to create your new user account, I will kindly ask you to follow up and send me two more information, like two more documents or another document, or confirm your address or whatever it is, right? So the agent can have some templates at hand in order to make their day easier. And there is a rule of thumb, at least I have it. If you do something more than twice, then create a template. All right, so then what happens, the ticket goes from open to pending, right? So the system does this automatically. Ticket is in open or pending status. Customer receives an email about about updated requests, right? So customer receives the email and says, yeah, okay, so I need to provide more information to the agent so they can help me. Cool, so let me provide that information, goes back to the agent. The agent says, oh, okay, thank you for providing this more information, but we still need blah, blah, blah. Okay, then the agent, so let's say at some point, the customer loses interest, right? So, or I don't know, for whatever reason, when the request is being solved, they forget to follow up and say, yes, it's been solved, thanks, all good. So now we have this intermediate step, which is not necessarily part of our system. This is just something which is more intermediate, which is an automation, right? So we've colored it with green when it's an automation. So customer doesn't answer, bump solve process starts. What does this mean? This means that we set up an automation, which is a time-based business rule, right? So it's a business rule which works on events. So if a ticket is created, or if a ticket has been replied to and it's been 2 days since it's been replied to, then perform an action. All right, so this step number 1 is automation pending, and remind customer after 5 days, working days, please respond, right? So this sends an email to the customer reminding them that, hey, you have been in pending status, which means that we're waiting for more information from you. And would you kindly get back to us and provide more information? So the customer has received this email. Now, let's imagine that they don't get back to us. And then we have another automation in another 5 days. So in 10 days from the initial, let's say, pause, when the customer has not gotten back to us, we go and send them another email and say, hey, you still haven't gotten back to us. If you haven't gotten back to us, this means that we consider the request solved, and we would just set the ticket to solved, right? So we will put the ticket to status solved. Now, moving on, the ticket is in status solved. So right now what happens is the next part of the flow is we send a customer satisfaction. After maybe another day after the ticket has been set to solve, we send an automation. We send another email and say, hey, dear customer, how did you find our customer experience while discussing with the agent? Can you give it a positive or a negative experience? If you, for example, whichever the case, if it's a positive or a negative, customer can also add a comment. If they say it was a negative experience, we can also add an additional 5 reasons why this was a bad experience, right? So we can ask for more information for the customer, like what was wrong. All right, so let's imagine the customer receives this, rates it, and then after another, so let's consider the customer still needs more information. So the ticket is reopened, and within 28 days of tickets being solved. So we keep the ticket in solved state until we set it to close. Usually it's advisable to keep it for less than that. In this case, we just imagine to keep it on solved status for 28 days, meaning that if the customer gets back to us and the ticket is still in solved state, this means that the ticket goes back to open. If it goes back to open, then it goes back into the queue or the view of the agent, and the agent has to perform an action. After we set the ticket to solved, to closed after 28 days, if it's in status solved, if the customer replies to that email thread, a new ticket is going to be created, and it's going to have a reference like this is a follow-up ticket from whatever ticket ID that the previous one had. So after the CSAT, there's another automation that sets the ticket to closed. And then, yeah, if the customer replies, as I mentioned, that new ticket is created after the ticket has been solved in 28 days. All right, so this is a flow, a global flow of a customer reaching out via email. And in this case, asking for a, asking for a new user to have created a new user account for them. All right, so this has been a walkthrough of what's, for example, one global use case looks like. In usual flows, there's, I don't know, there's 10, at least 10 of these cases, depending on the company size and the complexity of the support system and the business actually. Because that sets the tone, the business sets the tone, and all the processes behind it. This is going to be multiplied into, I don't know, like 2, 3, maybe 5 sessions in which we discuss these Zendesk features. So after doing that, it's just a matter of creating some triggers and some automations and some macros in Zendesk. It's going to become very easy because we know exactly what we need to do. We know which use case needs what business rules and what templates, so and what views or queues. So everything's let's say comes together in this way, and it makes a little bit more sense to you. And yeah, well, obviously to me as well, because I know exactly what I need to do in Zendesk, and I don't waste time in doing things more than once. I don't like to do things more than once. I mean, I obviously do, but it's preferred that I do it if I understand correctly what needs to be set up and why, because that's the most important thing. Yeah, then we don't need to circle back and make changes and realize that we've done it and we've done some setup, like a lot of things, and then yeah, we have to do it again because we didn't think about it from the very beginning, which does happen, but it's preferred to do things right from the beginning. So I hope this was helpful, and yeah, I will see you in the next lesson. Bye.